Hello and welcome to The Full View. I'm Shanta Yankee. Thank you very much for joining us this evening. I will start this half hour, of course, as we give you the live proceedings coming from the late Edna Molewa, of course, the tribute and prayer meeting by the senior ANC leaders visiting the home, of course, of the late minister. Our reporter Patricia is covering the story for us and has been doing so throughout the course of the evening. Let's cross over now to Patricia. We do believe that the prayer tribute has concluded.
Thank you so much, Shante. Definitely concluded here at the official home of the fallen minister, as we saw scores of NEC members, of course, convening here at her home to pay their last respects and also pay tribute, but also share in her memory and just encourage one another not to, of course, lose the hope after the loss that the party has suffered. Of course, as today they remember one of their own, we saw the Deputy President, Mr. David Mabuza, there addressing of course, gathering here as they all convened for the prayer meeting here at the home. So let's speak to one of the NEC members who joined the gathering, Mayor Togotitiza. Just in a nutshell, how you remember the late minister?
She was a hard worker, a very insightful person, diligent in her work. I worked with her not only as an activist of the ANC, but I also had the pleasure of serving with her as a parliamentarian, but also when we were both deployed in the agricultural sector. She was a member of the Executive Council, responsible for agriculture and environment in Northwest, and at the time I was the Minister of Agriculture and Land Affairs. We worked as a team with Comrade Nomvula Mokonyane and many others, who together at the time of the transition, we actually had to build a united agricultural sector in South Africa. As you know, that we had homelands, former homelands rather, and we had the then South Africa, and we had to create a policy certainty that agriculture with various permutations and the participation of small farmers, commercial farmers can coexist and be able to actually deal with the international environment, particularly on agricultural trade. And I must say that Comrade Edna, as part of that team, made a lot of contribution, but also enabled us, through her own experience working in the province, to be aware of some of the weaknesses that in the policy environment we might have had. And one would remember her for that. As a member of the NEC, she used to sit in the bench behind us. We used to laugh, but we also laughed sweets. She used to carry a bag of sweets which we would share on a lighter moments, but she was always conscious and ensuring that she does her ANC deployment until the end, both as an NEC member, but also as a member of the Women's League. So as the Parliament of South Africa, I must say that we've lost a dedicated parliamentarian. She was always there in her desk when she was not on external assignment or any national assignment. She answered her questions when she needed to answer those questions, but also she engaged with the portfolio committee that she was responsible for. As a women parliamentarians, I want to say, as the Commonwealth Women Parliamentarian Africa region, we've lost one of the dedicated members who actually is a symbol of how a woman parliamentarian can serve her society and her constituency.
Thank you so much. Let's get more a reaction. This side, I am joined by Ntatejo Mokgoro, who also worked very closely with the fallen minister. One would say another spear has fallen within the ranks, of course, of the ANC. But it is that hard work, that dedication, the fact that she led the country with great excellence that perhaps is encouraging all of you to move forward in her legacy.
Yeah, indeed. I had a rare dualism in my relationship with her. She was one of my 11 bosses when I was Director General of the Northwest Province. That is the Premier and 10 MECs, and she was one of the MECs. But in addition to that, apart from the fact that she was my boss, one of my bosses, she specifically asked me to coach her on the running of the state. And a number of years later, I'd actually forgotten about this part of my role in relation to her. She said, by the way, do you recall that you actually introduced me to how the state functions? And the very, very last time I met her was at a recent manifesto workshop. And there was no sign or suggestion that that was in fact the last time I saw her. A great loss indeed to the country.
But the fond memories that, of course, will propel you as a leader in standing to continue with her legacy. That is perhaps what is the highlight right now.
Well, apart from the fact that she was an epitome of hard and smart work, always well-dressed, always that radiant smile in her face, and of course quite pretty.
Thank you so much. Let's get more reactions. Now I'm joined by our own Minister of Communications, Nomvula Mokonyane. To you, perhaps one can say she was a sister, a friend, more than just a comrade.
We even shared a name that we called each other with. We called each other Samma, Sponono Samama. And this started at a time when we first met with Comrade Edna in the trade union then Kausa, which is now known as Sakau. And she then also became the deputy president of Sakau today. The most exciting moment of that period of my relationship with Comrade Edna was when Kausa became the first union to win a recognition agreement on paid maternity leave. We waged a very strong campaign, and we're the first union to be able to have an agreement for paid maternity leave. And we then moved on. On the eve of the unbanning of the African National Congress, we were then together again called, and we found one another through the Western Transvaal Council of Churches and the Federation of Transvaal Women, that together with comrades such as Zakes from the Western Transvaal, Comrade Star, that we should all go into the Northwest and go and start setting up structures of the ANC. There was virtually no contact or activists in some Inyobu Putatswana area, save for the Western Transvaal and parts of the areas where Comrade Edna comes from, which are linked to the then PWV. And we stayed there for a period of 3 weeks. Comrade Edna had to become an immediate leader of the civic movement in that area. We had to turn advice centers into offices of the African National Congress. And this woman was like Samma as always. And then from there, we then built also a very close relationship because we were both Catholics. We exploited the Catholic Church in the Northwest, setting up the structures of the African National Congress. And when the ANC was then almost on the eve of the general elections, we were also honored, myself and Comrade Edna, to be taken by the ANC to go and study at the Wharton School of Business, as well as at Harvard, as part of the Ready to Govern and also Managing Emerging Economies. We left South Africa on New Year's Eve, flying out of the country, spending over three months outside, being coached and being trained on how to then govern and how to set up structures. We're in the company of people like Comrade Popo Molefe, Comrade like Smart Ngonyama, Miki Kaya, and many others, including the current premier of the Eastern Cape and Comrade Tabang Makwet. And coincidentally, all of us ended up one way or the other being premiers. And it was again because of our commitment and sharing the trenches. Then we continued with Comrade Edna and worked in establishing the ANC Women's League structures. And she brought in a lot of women from the trade union movement, as well as from the villages around the Northwest, because she developed a very good working relationship with the traditional leaders. And in the ANC, again, coincidentally, I found her after the departure of the National Party. I found her in 1996 when I got appointed as the MEC. I found her being the MEC for Agriculture, Environment and Conservation, and I was the MEC in Gauteng. And Comrade Togo Didiza was the Deputy Minister. We had to actually work together with Comrade Pallo and Comrade Derek and Togo in putting together. Comrade Edna is one of those who can lay claim on the development of the National Environment Management Act, where we worked tirelessly in this. And guess what? All these other male MECs didn't know anything. They all relied on me and Edna. And Comrade Pallo relied on us as well. So she always coached you to go and learn and know more. And that actually was what made all of us to look much closer to Comrade Edna as a sister and a big sister. But again, the other thing that made us to click with Comrade Edna, she loved life. She loved to look good. And every time we meet, we'll say, "Some make tlapile, o tlape skunu, o tshele perfume, o bofe matsele re nne bantle, ka shekore tlo ba bontsha."
So she had a great sense of humor, happy person.
And that was us. That was us. If we have morning meetings, we must organize makuinya and snook fish. We eat whatever that we find. But the township girl in her was never actually missed. But the last thing that I think we should also remember Comrade Edna about is that in the midst of the challenges that the ANC has been going through, Comrade Edna embraced everything that is a product of the ANC, the outcomes of our conferences, the decisions of the ANC, the leadership of the ANC. And I really, the reason why I'm so emotional about her passing on is that we need many of the Edna Molewas who must embrace what is good for the organization, but also be firm on what she believes in and use the internal structures to fight our own differences. And at the time when we're going for elections, we would actually be crisscrossing the country and stop in a taxi rank and eat and do all these manner of things. I took over water from her, and even there she would say, even in cabinet, she would actually speak more on my issues, and I will support her on environmental issues because together we've worked. And I really think that this country must still know more besides Edna the minister. They must know Edna a freedom fighter. She also was in very close contact with the Nchabeleng unit of Umkhonto weSizwe in the then Western Transvaal and adjacent to the then Northern Transvaal. She was an all-rounder. Like I say, in the civics we were together. In the formation of the ANC, we were together. In the formation of the Women's League, we were together. In the trade union movement, we championed, we broke barriers and made big.
Talking about the barriers in especially the trade union movements, today South Africa stands tall as we celebrate the first woman to lead a whole federation. And it's that, that road that people like her paved.
Yes. In actual fact, when the NEC met yesterday and the president of COSATU came in, I said, you know what, this is in honor and in memory of Comrade Edna, because we come from a trade union that was led by a woman, Emma Mashinini. We come from a trade union movement that championed the sexual harassment education and awareness program, SHARP. And I said to Comrade Zingiswa, you know what, everything that you do, you must do it for Edna. Utase lipsticky, be nice, be assertive, but don't lose your revolutionary character in everything that you do.
But didn't many of you perhaps find it a bit challenging? It seems like she was somebody who always had her running shoes on. Could you guys keep up?
Well, it's going to be tough, but the good thing is that as she runs, she will be calling you to follow her. So we shall continue. We'll not keep up with her pace, but we'll try and be a bit of what Comrade Edna was.
Thank you so much. Let's hear it from Minister Siyabonga Kwele. Your memory of the fallen minister. You've also worked very closely with her for a very long time. What has stood out? We've heard so many great tributes and really great descriptions of the character, a gallant fighter who has played such a pivotal role in shaping this country.
I think first and foremost, we used to call ourselves Maki, means neighbors. Because when we came to Parliament, we used to be sitting next to each other. And when we go into cabinet, we sit next to each other. So there was that friendship. But what stands out about these comrades who are celebrating a life now and mourning her loss is that she really had all the qualities of leadership. She also carried all these signs where we say the character of the ANC, what it should be in terms of humility, as we have heard from other speakers, she was always very humble person, very firm, hard worker. She will take criticism, but offer constructive criticism. And she's really saved not only our movement and the people she led, but she also saved the whole of humanity. As you know, recently, she has been in an active movement to save our heritage in terms of wildlife. She has been outstanding not only in South Africa, but internationally in terms of saving our climate. But she was a person who stands by her conviction. She will argue her point to an end, but when the decisions are taken, she will humbly say, no, I'll support that decision if she's convinced. So there's a leader we have lost as an ANC, there's a leader we have lost as a South Africa, and the globe as a whole.
All right, thank you so much. Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, how do you remember your comrade this hour?
Wana Papa, that's what she used to call me. It means son of my father. She never called me my name. Every time we met, she says, Wana Papa. And I was sitting next to her in the cabinet. One of the things she'll always do, sometimes they give you lots and lots of documents which sort of confuse you. She used to pack them for me. Every time we arrive, she puts them in order and give me a big file which is orderly with the agenda there and saying, Wana Papa, this is what you must follow. And I remember asking her recently, what am I going to do one day if you are not here? But I was not thinking about this which you are faced with now. I worked very closely with Comrade Edna even before coming to serve in the National Cabinet. Because as Metogo Didiza said, when she was the Minister of Agriculture and Land Affairs, Metogo was the MEC for Agriculture and Environment in Northwest. I was the MEC for Agriculture and Environment in Limpopo Province. So we used to meet quite often. And among all the MECs of Agriculture and Environment, we were closest. We worked together very closely. Then we came to national government together. She was deployed to social development and I to health. The two departments are twins. You can't work in health without dealing very closely with the one in social development. Not that the other ministries are not close to you, but this the closest where you know you can't do anything. Then she was deployed to water affairs and environment. You can't deal with health without issues of clean running water. If something wrong happens there in the clean running water, you pick it up in clinics and hospitals. So I used to talk to her every day and tell her, Wana Papa, your failure is going to be my failure. Everything you do wrong is going to reflect on me. Also environment. We even have an environmental section in health anyway, because we do have environmental determinants of health. So even when she did environment alone, we used to work very closely together with her.
No one is irreplaceable or invincible, but it seems like whoever may follow up in her position will have very, very big shoes to fill. I mean, such a bold character who has worn so many different hats with excellence.
Indeed, you are right. No one is replaceable, but I can assure you are right. These are very long boots, very big boots. I've just arrived this morning from the United Nations General Assembly, where I accompanied the President, but also, as you know, I'm the sitting chairperson of the Global Stop TB Partnership. We're going to debate TB. And we're not going to discuss issues of environment in this particular one. But everybody who I met from other countries stopped me and asked about Comrade Edna, especially those who are dealing with environmental issues and climate change. And they were all saying, we have lost a leader. One of them even told me at international negotiations on climate change, when things are stuck, they used to go to Edna and say, what is the direction? And you know who said that? Amina Mohammed. She is the Deputy Secretary General of United Nations. She's the one who was telling me so. On Wednesday when I met her, she said, when we get stuck, we don't know which direction to follow. We used to go to Edna. And she said, she used to be so cool and she will give direction and people will follow. You are aware that in this negotiation on environment, on climate change, which are so tough, you know. She's regarded as one of those who led, and I got it, you know, this week at United Nations. So when somebody gets into such booths, people will expect that person to do exactly the same. They'll be looking at her to see, is there another leader of Edna's caliber or what's happening here? So it's always going to be a big challenge.
Meaning that she's really ran a bold race. And yes, she may have been, you know, gone too soon, age 61, but it seems like she's done what most people who live beyond that age perhaps could not even achieve.
Yes, there are many people who live much longer than that, but they couldn't achieve. And you are right, she's gone too soon. We never thought about it. Especially for me, I must say it hit me very hard. I know the immediate family. I cannot pretend to feel the pain they are feeling. They must be feeling a searing, special type of pain. But for me, because the day she arrived from China, when I was phoned that she's sick, I was already sleeping. And they told me she's in hospital. I woke up, got out of my pajamas, took my clothes, rushed to the hospital to see her. And I found that she was already in a state where she can't speak to me. And then subsequent visits, you know. Then on Wednesday, just that week, she passed on. She could recognize me, and she was trying to speak to me. I went out of that hospital elated that, oh, this is going to pass anyway. And I was very relaxed because I saw her coming up. Now, on Saturday, when I was phoned that she's gone, I said, God. Anyway, it shows that we don't control life. No matter, you know, what we think or no matter what we can do in science and medicine, we don't control life. There's the ultimate God, and he has got his own plans. And so it hit me very hard because I was really sure that Comrade Edna is going to recover and come and join us.
In closing, as NEC members, what is your message in a nutshell to her family?
Well, the message we are passing to the family, that's why we're here, is to thank them first and foremost for having allowed them. I'm sure you have heard the history from teaching, in the trade union movement, in the ANC Women's League, until she became the chairperson of the province when she was premier. Then we were elected together in the NEC of the ANC, re-elected again in Mangaung, then re-elected again at Nasrec. She has definitely run her race, so we're going to thank them. That, you have given us your mother, you have given us your sister, you have given us your grandmother. She has served the movement very well. And we're going to say, we are coming to release her. To say she has run her race, she has really served with distinction.
Thank you so much, Minister of Health, Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi, here joining the many voices who flocked to the Molewa home to come and pay tribute, remember her spirit, and really just speak boldly of her. We've heard how they describe her as a gallant freedom fighter, a champion for transformation, and of course, gender equality in the country, a woman who stood bold for the environment, a woman who made sure that the country's endangered species such as the white lion, the rhino in the country is protected. So a minister that really wore different hats, and as you heard from the Minister here of Health saying that she has run a bold race, she has completed her race and her legacy will forever live on, and she of course remains a leader who has clearly left an indelible mark in the hearts of many. For now, let's give it back to you in studio.
Thank you very much, Patricia Vasahi, for SABC News, just taking us through that prayer tribute service in honor of the late Edna Molewa, Minister of Environmental Affairs, and also just hearing the views there from colleagues as well as ANC NEC members in attendance this evening. In some other news,